Got a presentation on 7 things we need to do to turn our economy around. We're going to concentrate on that, and it'll help define where I stand on the issues. And then after that, we're going to have questions and answers. And the way we're going to have the questions and answers is this. And this is usually one of the most fun part of these town halls. You're going to write out the question after I'm done with my talk, so you can see if I covered your question or not. And we're going to go through every question that you come up with. Jennifer is going to read it. Now, the reason we don't have you saying it verbally is because I learned from the first couple of town halls that most people would ask a question for 5 or 10 minutes. And we just can't do that. So this is the most efficient way of handling it. Then, just before we begin, what I'd like to do is be able to show you about a 2.5-minute video. And it kind of defines why I'm running and what's going on in the economy and what we can do here in San Pedro. Let me ask you guys, how many of you are from San Pedro? Okay, anybody outside of San Pedro, somewhere else? From Lomita?
Originally back in Pennsylvania.
Whoa, okay. Came a long way for this. Torrance. Wilmington. Torrance, okay. Well, welcome to those outside San Pedro. I am going to mention a few things specifically about San Pedro, but that's maybe 1% of what we talked about. So, I want to show this to you. And this kind of sets the tone why I decided as a small business owner to run for political office. So, my son just disappeared. This started. John, is he coming back?
Who's that?
Caleb.
Oh, did he just walk out on you?
Yeah. Oh. Oh well. Let me start this here. I think I can do it. And I think we've got the speakers. Here we go. There. Oh, he's here. Hey, Caleb. This is my kid, Caleb. Got another kid, Ashley back here. And then I got 5 kids, and my wife should be here any minute. And, huh?
She's lost.
Oh, my wife's lost.
They had a meeting with the employees and they chose to cut benefits and keep the job
to the point where we either sell the company or relocate the company. And being a local guy, I didn't want to leave California. So we decided to sell.
These people coming for a federal and opposition that was way overqualified for the position.
They had to lay off 2 people. You know, basically 60 jobs went to Mexico, went to Kentucky.
I'm worried about insurance is costing as much as my rent. So many doctors have been forced out of the profession.
Rising prices.
I'm a contractor there, and I give them the material price, I give them the labor price, and the first question is, why is labor so expensive?
We started out with 6 employees, and we have not actually made a profit in our company for the last 3 years.
I'm worried about buying a house someday.
That I'm not gonna have a job when I graduate, that I'm not gonna be able to pay off student loans.
So I'm really living day to day with my wife, and we talk about kids, but we're not able to have them because there's not enough.
There's this idea that politics is something for those people, and that it's something far off away, and that people like myself, a student, we don't really have a say or can't really change something and can't affect government or what policies are. But the fact is, we have the right to vote and we can do something about it.
My name is John Johnson. I own and operate a cabinet shop, have since 1978. You're presently in our old showroom, which we've had to vacate. In 07, I was employing almost 80 people. And we were just, doing a lot of business and doing really well. Things were happening. It was packed full of displays. There wasn't as much of a demand. And little by little, we had to just peel back. Anyways, bottom line, I couldn't afford to rent anymore. I hope that the government will recognize that, okay, just like myself, look around, I had to cut back. I had to realize that this is not working anymore and cut back and face the fact that, okay, I had to cut back. I hope that our government will do the same thing.
And we have a $1.4 trillion debt, like, how does that gonna work out for my future?
I've got 2 kids in school, and I care about them more than this business, of course, because I'm not going to be able to afford to be put them through college.
That my kids would be able to grow up, that they would be able to have a mom that's there for them, you know, all day long, every day, that they're not having to be sent away to daycare while I'm not working, or, you know, and that it's will be great for this district to get some big change.
We're just really trying to hang on, and we need to have a new sheriff in town.
I find myself saying, if I can't trust, why vote then?
I guess I like Craig because he shakes things up. He's totally different than the status quo of a politician.
I want to make sure that candidate I'm going to be able to back the entire time.
And Craig really is that champion for people who can't do anything for themselves.
Wants to represent people and the people of his district, and you know, and not up there just for power, but just to do something to change, to be the difference up in Washington, and to represent his community, which is a super rad place.
That he can be a voice for us.
And he will be my voice. I know he'll be my voice. He'll be the small business voice in this district.
I'm going to vote for Craig Huey because that is the one thing that I know for a fact that I can do.
You know, that kind of puts a face on the economic problems that we have today. We have big economic problems. And we can talk about economics. We can talk about the broad picture. When it comes down to it, it comes down to seniors and kids and everybody in between suffering, afraid, in a situation where what is the future holding? And quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, you know, I grew up in this district. I've lived here in San Pedro. I've lived in Lomita. I grew up and graduated from El Segundo High. My business has been in Torrance for 30 years, and El Porto is where I serve. And I got to tell you, I love this district. But when I see the buildings in San Pedro, when I see the buildings in Torrance, when I see one shop after another out of business, going out of business, what is the future? My kids just graduated from college, or are still in college. But they and their friends, they can't find jobs. When I see kids that are under 10 years old, the probability is they're going to live at a lower standard of living than their parents or grandparents. Our economy is going backwards. And what we find is that people are getting in this district. You know, Democrats, independents, Republicans, they know things aren't right. They know that there's wasteful spending in Washington, D.C. And what can we do about it? They know that there's problems in the economy. What can we do about it? Well, that's where tonight I want to present to you 7 steps to turning this economy around. Now, I base this upon two different factors. One is that throughout the United States over the years, I have been going to business and investment conferences teaching about what is inflation and what is recession to business leaders and economists. I just got back from the World Economic Summit, where top business leaders and economists met. And we talked about the economy and how the debt that we now have is unsustainable and how we're headed for an economic tsunami. We're headed for a potential new recession or depression. We're headed for another stock market crash. We're headed for a historic inflation if something isn't done to the economy. And as a business owner, I have made hundreds of jobs in Torrance and the South Bay, but thousands of jobs nationwide. As a marketing and advertising firm, I've got over 800 clients I've had nationwide, helping small companies become large. Entrepreneurs with a dream fulfill that dream. Where people have been able to send their kids to college, people who had no hope of anything be able to make something. But they're under attack now. And I've seen one client after another client suffering, not growing, not creating jobs, instead either going out of business or cutting back or afraid to grow. So what do you do? Well, that's what I want to talk about. 7 steps to avoiding the coming meltdown and restoring the American dream. You see, I believe that there is hope in the time of crisis. And that's exactly what we're going to take a look at, is what is that hope? You know, we have a $1.6 trillion national deficit, budget deficit. We have a historic $14.4 trillion national debt. If you add up the unfunded liabilities, it's $427,000 for every man, woman, and child in America. America is headed towards a Greece-like situation unless we're able to turn this economy around. And it is not a pretty picture. And yet some politicians want to pretend everything's okay. It's just like a family that's making $40,000, but they're basically spending $200,000. And how long does it take for them to realize they're going to lose their house, they're going to lose their credit cards, that they're going to go into bankruptcy? But that's what we're doing. We're headed in that path. And so we've got to stop this historic spending and debt crisis. And the starting point is this debt ceiling that you may have heard about on TV or the radio. You may have read about it in the paper online. With a debt ceiling, my very first vote, if I'm elected to Congress, is going to be on this debt ceiling, where we have an opportunity to cut the budget deficit in a historic proportion, because well, you can either have a balanced budget amendment, which would stop this in economic insanity, or for every dollar we raise that budget, the budget limit, we cut a dollar of spending. We've got to do something. What has happened is that in the last 3 years, we have had $4.5 trillion added in debt. No country can continue on like this. And on this debt ceiling, Senator Barack Obama said, "Leadership means the buck stops here. I therefore intend to oppose the effort to increase America's debt limit." He said we owed it to future generations not to increase the debt limit. He's changed his mind now. But you know what? We cannot raise that debt limit unless we get this budget deficit under control. Now, when we talk about this, Caleb, I don't know if there's a way to stabilize that, but anyway, on this debt crisis, $776 billion of U.S. securities are overseas, holding our debt. Bankers and government. In fact, $12 billion in just interest every single month is going to foreign governments. And which is the government that gets the most? China is getting the most. The new budget that President Obama has submitted has $7.2 trillion in new debt. Yet today, already without that, 40% of every dollar pays off and helps with the debt problem. Now, the federal government is contributing to the prices that we see going up. Have you noticed that prices are going up? What this is here is a historic money supply. This, during a recession, the money supply should be more flat like this. Instead, the money supply has jumped like this. When there's more money in circulation over the ages, they used to be you just print more money. Now you inject it into the banking system and into the economy. When all this extra money comes out of nowhere, what happens